Dancing is optional.
Grab your neighbor, pull up the chair, 'cause we got a lot to say about the world out there at the Humpday Exchange.
Sorry.
All right. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Tonight on Humpday Exchange, we're back with our hosts, Elizabeth and Michael, here every Wednesday asking all the important questions and having the conversations Oklahoma actually needs. We are so excited to welcome Senator Carri Hicks, who represents Senate District 40 in Northwest Oklahoma City. She's a mom, former elementary school teacher, and lifelong Oklahoman who took her classroom experience straight to the Capitol to fight for public education, affordable health care, and policies that truly support working families. Senator Hicks, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Humpday Exchange. Could you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you did such a good job.
I try.
All right. It's so nice to be with you guys. Honestly, I'm just coming off of a 2-day retreat on focused on education and policy. So I was joined with, Oklahoma lawmakers from across the state the last 2 days in Oklahoma City to really kind of dig into some uncomfortable conversations about where we are. That was one of the primary reasons I ran for office in the first place. Was I felt like I was advocating from my classroom. It was falling on deaf ears. I was utilizing every single avenue I had available to me from the classroom, and I just felt like I couldn't get enough movement, which led me to run for office. And paired with that, in order of importance, honestly, is that our son has a chronic illness, and our family story happens to be type 1 diabetes, but we know that there are lots of families in Oklahoma who have chronic illnesses and care for loved ones. And so really trying to figure out how this state can be a better partner when policy solutions are needed in order to make sure that every family can afford their prescriptive medications.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I know we've got Michael starting us off tonight with our some questions.
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna kick it off. Senator Carri Hicks, I am super excited to get to talk to you. Huge fan. Haven't really got to talk too much to you because I'm all the way in the middle of Norman. So, but I want to get started with a question. I'm sure that's fresh on a lot of people's mind, and I kind of want to get your opinion and what we can do about it, if there's anything that we could do about it. But with the recent deployment of our National Guard to Washington, D.C., when the governor had previously stated that he wasn't going to do that and then kind of went back on his word and actually sent them. So what are your thoughts on that, and if there's anything that we can do to combat that?
I find the entire scenario just completely unacceptable. That we would be enlisting National Guard participants to police other cities. This doesn't feel very American. And so I'm very disappointed. I actually know a couple of folks that took the assignment, honestly, because they were going to get paid. And at this point in time, with the economy that we are currently experiencing, you can't blame them for looking out for their family heading into the holidays. So I'm not excusing it. I'm just, level setting the realities is that I understand there are real people on both sides of this issue, and we need to be cognizant of that. But the fundamental premise of the federal government asking states to send military presence to other states, cities, this is unacceptable.
100%. I know that was kind of a heavy hitter right out of the gate, but I know it's
like, okay, I'm ready.
Well, yeah, but as a senator that was awarded the Legislator of the Year by the National Guard, that's a big deal, right? And so to be like, how do you feel about that? And you're like, That sucks.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I have deep relationships with the Guard. I worked, I mean, honestly, over a year on preparing that piece of legislation, which, you know, we were able to successfully pass this year, which was looking at scholarships for career tech certification programs. I mean, we have these folks who receive excellent training in our Guard who are working on major equipment, and then they can't be a licensed mechanic because they haven't taken the state certification program, right? And so it's like this is a job skill that they have honed in their time in service to our state, and we need to find a pathway that will help them translate that to civilian life. And so it is raw. And I understand that there are really great service members who are going to be making some very difficult decisions right now, and that's unfair. It's completely unfair.
Yeah, we were all like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. This is out of control. I am going to do a little side note of I'm a little biased of Senator Hicks. And so I know, like, I'm not biased, I'm a fangirl over here. But, you know, I mean, over the last few years, you know, I mean, when they say get involved, I mean, they mean it, right? Like, show up. And, you know, I told somebody, like, when you go to the Capitol, that's what they want. Like, my face is known. They're like, hey, how you doing? They may not know, like, who, what, why, when, or where, but they know my face, right? So, like, get involved. So something you talked about with your son having the chronic illness, being the type 1 diabetes. And I know, because I've actually texted you and been like, let me tell you this prescription drug story, because it's out of control. And now it's even worse. Like, I have more things to talk to you about. But so what are some things that you are doing right now? Because, like, now we're about to go back into opening day. And is there anything as us constituents do to assist with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a lot of state level policy decisions that are making our healthcare access what it is, which is really, really bad. I mean, the fact that we now, you know, I mean, like, I think I just saw that we're considered, our whole state is now considered, you know, at the worst of the healthcare worker shortage. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, is it any wonder? Everything is astronomical. Folks are delaying preventive care because they don't have access or they can't afford it. And so anytime folks are receiving that medical treatment, it is at a crisis level response. And so you really need a specialist, and you're not going to find one in your local rural community or your small town. I mean, it is a colossal problem. And I mean, the state attempts currently, you know, have been kind of this mismatch. Well, we're going to provide some, you know, pay incentives, or we're going to try and do some scholarships to get folks, you know, to practice medicine here. And I just think that we're missing the forest for the trees, in that we've made it a very difficult environment to practice healthcare. We have restricted patients' autonomy. We have, at the state level, have decided that we know better than a patient or their physician on the level of care that individuals need. And so it is, I mean, in my opinion, it's not a mystery why people are choosing not to practice medicine in our state currently. So that's a piece of it. But generally speaking, you know, our uninsured rates continue to be so high that it impacts the rest of us in a very tangible way, because those folks will seek medical care in their emergency room, and to offset those costs, private pay or insured end up, you know, I mean, it's a terrible system. And so, I mean, when I started this journey into politics, I don't know that I was a fervent believer in universal health care, but I've become one because I've seen the numbers. And the reality is, what we're currently paying is bananas, individually. What individual households are paying is ridiculous for the level of care that we're receiving. And it really kind of solidified for me when I was part of a diplomacy trip to Canada last summer, a year and a half ago. And I was asking the questions about, you know, their healthcare program, because, you know, we in Oklahoma in particular are like, well, that's, socialized medicine. It's terrible. It's awful. People can't get in to see a physician. It's, this and that and whatever. Well, I was there. So I just started asking the question, and guess what? That's not true.
Right.
People are healthier. They're living longer. They have a better quality of life. And they're paying way less than any of us are. Right. And so I was like, but how much do you pay in taxes? Like, I was literally trying to do this whole mathematical equation to figure out, like, is this really as good as you're saying it is? And it is. Because you need a larger risk pool to offset the, significant costs of kids like my son, of those chronically ill patients. And if you have folks who are relatively young and healthy, who are making the choice of whether or not they're going to have a place to live and afford rent, or whether they might need health insurance, that's a pretty clear choice. And I know it because I've made it. My husband and I both went without health insurance in our 20s. So these are real decisions that folks are now being forced to make, and we will all pay the price for it because everything will continue to rise in our healthcare system unless we get aggressive and actually pass meaningful policies that will cut out the corporate profitization of what should be a fundamental human right.
Agreed. And I know personally, as a mental health care professional, that was the whole purpose of the CCBHC, was to keep specifically, the mental health and substance abuse population, to keep them from going to the ER. And now they've taken so much of that away again. You're like, oh, I guess fend for yourself. Like, sorry. But I got stuck at work today with my little mini, oh, what's up?
This is the campaign baby.
Hey, how are you?
This is Cammy.
Oh my goodness. Are you gonna be a senator like your mom?
And the dog. Oh my gosh.
Maybe. You have such an amazing role model. How fun is that? She's all cheesing. Yay!
Out of my bag, please.
No, are you being shy? Okay, now we're done.
I'm like, actually, now that you're here, will you please go get my phone charger?
Right, I'm like, I'm so glad you popped in. I need a
Perfectly timed.
Right? But to kind of hear, we've come so far, and to now have to go, and I think I messaged you about like the prescription drug fiasco of, this is the cash price and this is if you use a coupon code. And like, me personally, like, we switched to United Healthcare, and I have copays on things that I haven't had to pay for in over a decade, and all of a sudden I have to pay for it. Copays going up, and there are so many people that don't know what's about to like really hit them.
Yeah.
And I think, and we went through that with SNAP, and I'm sure we're about to go through it again, but yeah. And so being able to, and I don't think people know, like, you can go to the Capitol. That's your house.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, in general, Oklahoma legislators are very accessible people. Right? Yeah. Like, we're just in your, community, like, living our little daily lives and taking our kids to school. And, and I love community interaction. I'm knocking doors right now for my reelection campaign. And so those face-to-face conversations, when you're catching people just kind of in the middle of their weekend, right? And having just raw, authentic conversations about the things that are going on and the challenges that folks are facing. I would say by and large, Oklahoma elected officials are very, very accessible, whether it's through email or through phone calls. Definitely, if you haven't taken a chance to look up who your elected representatives are, do that. There's a ton of tools online, oksenate.gov, and you can put in your zip code and it'll help you figure out who your electeds are. And then outside of that, it's pretty easy to start up a conversation about things that you care about. And so when you engage in advocacy work, you get better at it.
Right. Absolutely. Anybody have anything to couple that with? Any other questions? You said you? No? Okay.
Go ahead, Michael.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I was just going to say we had a question in the chat about do you think state question 832 will pass? And that is the minimum wage increase.
And we'll be right back after our sponsors. No.
I was going to say maybe
Grab
I
your
should play the
favorite.
song.
Pull
Play.
up a chair.
Yeah.
Grab your neighbor.
I was
Pull
late.
up a chair.
This is our whole music. I love it. Oh, we lost her. Sorry.
At the Humpday Exchange.
Good thing it's a good song, huh?
Right. I hope she's okay. I hope everything's
Yeah.
okay at her house because it seemed like she was getting up and then all of a sudden hit her pause and then it just went like off air. So hope
Maybe it
everything's
died.
okay
I
at
bet her
house.
phone might have died or something.
Oh, she was looking for
For a
she was getting the
charger.
Yeah, she
charger.
was. Yeah, she
Oh,
was
I was
waiting
like,
on
she
a
got
charger.
mom stuff to do.
I like these
So what do
questions,
you
though.
think so far, though?
Yeah.
There was another one too that I was trying to pin.
The remigration, I think, that was one that we talked about last night that we were going to talk about.
What is that about? Like, if we could talk about it for a second, like, what does that really mean?
As far as the remigration,
Mm-hmm.
so they had it compared to some.
Basically, it's to get non-white people out of the country. Basically, the country.
Whitewash America.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, America is not white.
It never.
Like you got to be brown skinned to have been indigenous to this area. So if they would just kindly start re-migrating themselves back to Europe, that would be great.
I mean,
Can we start with the administration and people in DC first? Is that a possibility?
please.
Is the forcible removal of any non-white and is used by right-wing extremist groups. Yeah, so that's where I was going with like the non-white.
Forcible removal of any non-white. Okay. It's never been used by any. Until 11/28. Dadgummit.
I mean,
Lucky
I ain't
us.
going nowhere.
That fits.
I'm in my grandma's house, so you know.
They can send me back to Hawaii,
can
I guess.
forcibly remove me, I guess. But yeah.
I was born here, but my
Yeah, better pack a lunch, as my daddy used to say. Like Great Bowling somewhere else. I suck at that, Sharon.
That's old Steve
Yes,
Miller's.
please.
Hey,
Flush them down the toilet.
Yeah.
They're cats, but they're crystals.
Cute.
How
Crystal
adorbs.
And this one's asleep. So listen, I've had this for quite a while. And I always just I just left them in the window, for like the moon and all that stuff. But I've never opened them. So I was like, oh, okay. Let's get that. Like 2 years old. Surprise.
Hopefully she comes back. I want to ask her about Toilet Paper USA.
Right.
Oh, right.
About the
Yeah, I hear that.
paper or
Yeah, that awful paper. And
Okay,
then
I
the
love it.
implications of why Turning Point can come into our schools here and dictate and have the governor back this shit up. Like, it's crazy to me.
Oh, there you are. There she is.
Oh, yeah.
Where?
Lip injections. She's got tats too.
Oh, that's funny.
There she is.
There she is. To save the day. I think we were going to ask her. Yeah, I got it now.
Yeah, she's still swirling.
State question.
There
State
it is.
question 832.
Yes.
Okay. I am so sorry.
We were like,
You know, you went on like my deficiencies in technology and whew. Okay,
you got
so
mom stuff to do.
32. You're gonna have to give me more.
It's the minimum wage increase.
Oh, of course. Heck yes. All day, every day.
Do you think it'll pass?
I don't know. I mean, and I'm just trying to be incredibly honest. I mean, I know that there are going to be lots of dollars spent against this, which is incredibly frustrating because it's very popular. If there was a vote today, it would pass. But I think that it was intentional, pushing it down the timeline as long and as far as Kevin Stitt possibly could, to help, you know, others opposing views be able to organize and raise money and be able to, and we know it's coming. I have spent the 7 years that I've been in the legislature having conversations about the minimum wage, and I mean, literally tried every pragmatic, mild-mannered approach to raising the minimum wage, and then this year was just like flipping tables, like 15 or nothing, right?
Right.
Like, we're done. Because I mean, the frustration that I have is that when you're having these conversations, I mean, Arkansas already did this. They're $3. They're paying folks $3 more an hour currently than Oklahoma. And so you think about everybody on, you know, the eastern side of the state. I mean, if they're working that minimum wage job, I mean, why wouldn't they drive a little bit further and pay their taxes to Arkansas than to pay them into Oklahoma when they'd be making $3 less an hour? That's significant. And so I modeled a piece of legislation based off their state question that they passed, which was an incremental increase. At the time I wrote it, we were $1 behind Arkansas. And so literally it was just like, we'll stay $1 under, like, you know, just trying to be look, I'm very reasonable. This is a very reasonable thing to do. No, they wouldn't hear it. Also, we have a preemption on municipalities' ability to set their own minimum wages. So this is bad when it comes to city workers. This is where I'm trying to get folks to understand, is that since cities are competing for talent, for municipal workers, et cetera, having that preemption to where the state says you cannot have a higher wage than the federal government says you can have, that really, in my opinion, like squashes any city level attempts to try and bring us forward. And so I was just going to run the repealer to repeal that preemption, let cities decide. If cities want to raise their minimum wages, we'll put it back on to city council, move on down the road. And you would have thought I was doing really bad things because everyone was mad about that. And I'm like, this is unbelievable to me, in that, you know, we talk about local control until we don't want local control, right? And so, you know, I mean, the bottom line is they don't want anybody to raise the minimum wage because they're still using outdated data, and they're saying things like, well, it's teenage workers, it's this, it's that. That's not true. And the data shows that it's primarily single moms. Single moms who need the flexibility with their work to be able to take care of their families. And who are the largest recipients of our state subsidies? Single moms. Is it any wonder? I mean, this is a direct correlation. And in my opinion, it's, it is exploitation at its finest, because they know they need flexibility within their work schedule and their work hours, and they don't have to pay them what they're worth, even if they're showing up and, you know, and they don't have a sick kid and they're trying to balance all the things. It's exploitation, and we need to pay people what they're worth.
I know that I've had this conversation with my parents, McDonald's it's just a starter job. It's not like a career, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let's put it like this. So if you are tired of seeing the people on the corner flashing a sign and blah, 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 all of that, or you have the human with Down syndrome or has a specific, they can work, but they also deserve to be able to pay their way. And I said, so you can't have it both ways. You can either pay people an affordable wage, or you can continue to complain about the dude on the corner, or the one talking to himself. And I'm like, if we had enough money to be able to support ourselves, things might be different, even for mental health. That was my soapbox.
We had
You're in
another.
Florida. Do what?
So
Yeah.
I do want to touch on before. So I want to talk about kind of the implications of AI and how they could be potentially taking jobs away from people. I know that they kind of flirted with the idea of taking jobs away from government employees, and passing those off to AI. So is there a plan to kind of combat that, or what's going on with that?
Do you think we have plans?
I
Okay.
hope.
Okay. All joking aside,
Yeah.
I am concerned, and I mean, for the longest time, I think when folks were like, well, with automation, we're going to be losing so many jobs, and this and that, and I think folks had a real concrete idea that it was going to be like machine fabrication, or those kinds of physical intense labor kind of jobs. And so now when you think about, okay, AI is actually pretty good at replicating certain behaviors and patterns of like customer service roles, to cut to it, where we thought we always needed a human on the other end of that phone, right? Like there might be opportunities for technology to be more efficient and be able to meet those demands and those needs. But I think it is important, and I mean, at this conference that I was just at, we had some really smart people there, talking about AI and education last night, and I think 3 things about AI currently. Here's where I'm at. And this is coming from my constituents. This is what I'm hearing the most, is when we're talking about AI and the fears around AI, the biggest concern I hear from my community is it's coming at the cost of rural Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. That it is a substantial investment of resources, both water and electricity. And if we haven't addressed the broadband access problem, mm-hmm. this will exacerbate those issues also. So, I mean, it's like, it's the pocket of, we need to conserve the resources, or we need to ensure that businesses are on the hook for paying for those resources, because the public and taxpayers should not be shelling out our hard-earned dollars to subsidize the profits of a data mining operation. And I feel very strongly about that. Additionally, there's not going to be equitable access, and that's not okay. And then the third thing is really on kind of that ethical and bias algorithm, potentially. If you're looking at government jobs being replaced by algorithms, is it going to be better or worse than the biases that are currently in those humans? So these are the things that I hear about frequently from my district. And so I don't know. I mean, we have robots mowing the grounds now. I don't know if you've seen them.
That was so weird the first time I saw those. Oh my gosh. But if politicians really want to replace people with AI, can we start with the politicians being replaced by AI first? Because I just feel like they'd be better overlords at this point than what we have now. Sorry, just thought I'd throw that in. Julia Kirt has requested to come on and join you. Now, this is your live, so I'm going to leave it up to you, Senator Hicks, whether or not you want to allow her to jump in here or not. Of course. Of course. I mean, I knew you would say that, but I still had to throw that in there. Yay!
Julia Kirt, everybody. Oh,
favorite senators. Oh my gosh,
she dropped down.
No, we want you. We want you.
Come on back up.
No, yeah. Get on. Get it.
Just do it.
I was just giving you a hard time. You know you love us anyway.
I know. Come on, you're invited. Just do it.
There
peer
she
Miss
is.
Kirk, everybody.
Yay!
Hi guys.
Hi.
So exciting.
I just was trying to like it a whole lot, and then I guess I was like, "Oh, it's Hicks! I forgot. This is so great."
I know, right? Oh my God.
Yeah,
Love
you're doing
it.
awesome. Good job, y'all.
Love it.
We
So, do you guys get to, again, mental health, do you guys get to work together, like, as far as, so Senator Kirt is like, hey, mental health, and you're kind of like the prescription drug, and then I'm over here with, meet me in the middle with the mental health prescription drug medication. So do you guys ever do, I don't like the buddy system. I don't
Like collaboration
yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank
all the time. All the time. We lean on each other so hard, and like I think build on each other's abilities and knowledge so much. It's awesome. Like, I mean, anytime things come up around pharmaceuticals, I'm like, where's Senator Hicks? We need her. What's going on? And and everything health wise. I just, really have focused a lot on mental health. So she lets me speak out on that more, but is definitely engaged with that too. It's awesome.
I know, because I was like, because I'm pretty sure I kind of blow up both of you. I was like, this is what I had to do. So, and we talked about this. I know I shared this with my team, but we also had to sign paperwork with the Department of Mental Health about anything to do with productive healthcare. Saying
Repro health. Yeah, that affidavit thing. Yeah. They sent it to speech therapists. What else? Senator Hicks, you did a lot of research on it, didn't you?
Yeah, dentists.
Yep.
Basically anyone. It was an executive order from our governor, and so I mean, I think the question is now: does it hold the power of law? Is it enforceable? You're starting to see some health professionals. I mean, the reality is, like, if you're in counseling and folks are your trusted clients and they're working through very complex issues, that is inappropriate for the governor to interfere in any way on those very important conversations that should be held in confidence.
Yeah, we went through this a few years ago, I think, with the whole Medicaid and transparency, and we were like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, and
Has there been a challenge to it yet?
I think so. The big challenge, the Healthcare Authority board declined it and voted it down because of, this is where language really matters. And sometimes people make fun of politicians for, caring so much about the language. But like, if you're ambiguous, that whole like referring someone for, who to another provider that might give reproductive health care, well, how are you responsible for what someone else is doing? And like, I mean, it's just the way it was worded was wild and so inappropriate. And there's just zero logic when it comes to reproductive health care in the state capitol. Nuance doesn't seem to matter. The reality of what we're facing with our health providers doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, and the rule I know we brought up with like rural Oklahoma. That's because I have actually somebody that works in rural Oklahoma, and she goes, "Hey, have you heard? Are they getting rid of like RSS positions and like the behavioral health, blah blah blah?" And I was like, "No." I said, "Ooh, but does your agency funded? Are your programs specifically funded by the department?" She's like, "I think so." I said, and there you go. So they didn't do away because like I still have all of my certifications and licensures, but I'm in Oklahoma City versus Calvin, McAllister.
I don't think we even know what else is going to get cut or close. I mean, a lot of agencies have been pushing, nonprofits who are providing healthcare and mental health care have been just scrappy and resourceful and trying to get by. But I'm just hearing horror stories about cutbacks in care, especially in rural Oklahoma.
Yeah, my heart hurts.
Mhm.
Same. And I mean, I have to give it up to, some of our healthcare systems have been really proactive in trying to explain those real complexities of what's going to be felt through this big, beautiful bill, and trying to get ahead of just basically like saying, you might be hearing one thing or another from a very politically slanted perception. Let me just give you the black and white of how this is going to impact this facility, your district. And so I have three facilities operated by Integris in my district. It's the number one economic engine for the district is healthcare. And so, I've gone to all of them, to hear specifically how are services in this environment going to be impacted with the changes that are coming. And I mean, Stitt just went through this whole victory lap over the managed care model that he stood up. And there's a lot of speculation that based on the guidelines that are coming through this big, beautiful bill, that it will actually eliminate all of that. I mean, it's just like we are in a free fall of what at this point in time. And they're like, oh, well, Congress will correct it. And I'm like, when? Why? How?
Right.
Incentive do they have? They shut down the federal government to try and figure this out, and they couldn't figure it out. So,
Genuine question. How I know how we kind of feel on the outside, and we kind of like throw it into y'all's hands. How do you guys maneuver feeling like that and then continuing on? You know what I mean? That's got to be an uphill battle, probably a lot of the times, considering where we are and where you guys stand.
I'm like sitting with my therapy dog right here. I mean, I seriously rely on Senator Hicks a lot personally. I mean, she's very determined and consistent, and luckily we don't tend to be down on the same days. So she might start spinning out. I remember when they were bringing managed care forward, she was so diligent, going to every meeting, trying to raise alarms and red flags about it while they were pitching this, ideal corporate run Medicaid program. And, she was spinning out. And so I would have to be like, okay, what are the steps we can take now to try to inform people? And if they're not listening, what are we doing? And then there's other days where I'm just losing it. And she's helping me come back to reality. So it's we know we have to keep showing up because there's actively harm being done at the state capitol, and there's potential for good. There really is. I mean, Hicks has passed some bills that have truly helped a lot of folks who have diabetes and some other major measures. So we can't give up. And I feel inspired every day by my Democratic colleagues to show up and just not give up. What do you think, Hicks?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a marriage in a lot of ways, right? Where it's some days I can give 150%, some days I'm hanging on to 5, right? And so you're really looking for your team to be there during those times. And I mean, what's gross about politics, obviously, is that you have to learn the hard way sometimes who you can trust, with your most authentic thoughts about just the chaos and harm that's happening in our state, and who is not a trusted individual to hear those things. And then, I mean, you just, touch grass, go for a bike ride with your kids, go get out something, go do anything but think about politics. Go be a regular human who's just getting groceries for the family. I mean, those are the kinds of things that are, kind of grounding rituals for me, I'll just say. My unhealthy grounding rituals are a chili cheese pony from Sonic, or a hot fudge sundae from
Totally. Mine is chocolate. So if Hicks comes into my office and I'm gunning the chocolate, she's like, okay, what's going on? We're
happening here. Oh my
but
gosh.
I think I would just add, being in the building, I was so frustrated before I got there with the decisions being made there. And there is something to getting to vote and getting to we can get on the mic and we can say what we think. And we can, even with those votes where there's only 4 or 5 of us voting no, we have our chance to say our piece, to ask questions, to vote no. And sometimes that's just what we have to do, is be the conscience. And that doesn't always feel worth it, but we know it matters, you know?
Right. And I think and this is probably really unhealthy, you guys, but I'm petty this way, so I'm just going to confess it to you guys. In that when we have this gut feeling in committee, so we used to be on the finance committee together, which was super fun, and also probably we got into too much trouble there. Anyway, you know, like it's just like something feels off, like you're asking these questions, you're trying to get to the bottom of it, you're just trying to understand, like in real time, how does this get implemented? Something doesn't pass the smell test. And so it's like, do I have a compelling reason to vote for this piece of legislation, or do I have a compelling reason to vote against it? It doesn't seem overtly harmful, but something's off. Mm-hmm. And so in the times when we're like, yeah, we're not supporting this, seems weird, those are the times when like headlines explode, you know, 6 months, a year into implementing it. And we're like, we knew, mm-hmm. we knew that something bad was in that language and we just couldn't figure it out.
We didn't know who was behind it is usually the issue, because somebody was behind it and we didn't know who was going to benefit from it, but because we couldn't see all the angles without any information, you know? Yeah. Okay, I saw someone ask about housing. Do you mind if I say a brief thing and then I'll hop off so that I'm not in your business? But someone asked about just the affordable housing crisis, and this is just something I'm working really hard on. And I think the area of agreement that we across the aisle is, and there's an understanding of the shortage problem and the lack of supply, and that we're not building enough. So I do see us investing more. We did put the largest investment into affordable housing that's happened in the history of the state a couple years ago. We have a revolving fund for affordable housing. Those houses are just starting to get built. And a lot of them are in rural Oklahoma because the rural legislators pushed it. But still, whatever, we need every single unit they're building, right? So like 12 units in Kingfisher is going to matter. So those are up and running, but we need a whole lot more. And I do have colleagues that are willing to work with me on workforce and affordable housing building. Now, on the other end of things around eviction, landlord tenant, that's much harder. We have some serious challenges around, lots and lots of folks who are landlords think that any change in the Landlord Tenant Act is going to cause problems for them, even if they're a grace-filled, good faith player in the housing market. And so there's a lot of opposition to improvements to that. And we need it because our eviction rates are off the charts and it's really hazardous. So that's the area I think we have to keep pushing in, but we've got to improve. We're trying to help cities especially do a better job of letting workforce housing work and affordable housing happen faster. We're so reliant on the private market, But anyway, I think we're finally catching on. We may be 10 or 20 years behind, but I do think we're starting to make some motion. So anyway, thanks for letting me hop on. I'll hide out. Thank you. Pepper.
Thank you, Senator Kirt.
My dog.
Thank you so much.
Stop.
I wish you had time to tell you the numbers because, here she is. I want her to tell you the numbers on the sheriff cost of eviction because those are local dollars that are being to basically displace whole families. And obviously it's an incredibly disruptive cycle. Okay, you're muted, Kirt. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, my dog was losing it. So did you say the sheriff cost?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're doing thousands per month in this county, and I rode along with an Oklahoma County sheriff. They have 7 full-time staff. All they do is deliver eviction notices and hang lockout notices. I mean, it's horrifying. And of course, our county clerk's office spends tons of time on these filings. So like anytime people say to me that, the state shouldn't be involved in this, I'm like, we already are. Like, we're the ones, our government resources are implementing evictions. And whether they're done in good faith or not, it's happening right and left. So like, I feel like all those public resources, and then it costs so much more to get people stable housing after they've been evicted compared to preventing it, Like the average eviction is under $1,000 owed. And so, 66%, I think it's like 2/3 have kids in the home. So you're talking about kids kicked out of their home. And yeah, of course they need to pay. Of course they do. But like literally a couple of days until your next paycheck could have you out on the streets. I talked to people while I was with this deputy. You know, a mom goes to the hospital to give birth. Baby has complications. She ends up in the hospital for 2 weeks with baby, comes home and is locked out from her apartment. I mean, things like this happen every day. And we have these huge corporate landlords that they do not look at personal circumstances. They do not give any latitude. And, you know, offering housing to people is a fundamental need. So anyway, I could get going on that, but yeah, it's a huge cost, societal cost. And, you know, we need to make a choice that it's more like a utility than just a good that we're selling, you know?
Right. And talking about the homeless shelters aren't long-term housing. Like, it's insane right now.
Maybe if our minimum wage was increased, they would be less of that.
Yeah, and they're not seeing that. Like, if you raise, like, we'll go out and spend money if we have it, and so you're not losing money. Like, you probably make more money if you spend more monies.
Well, and I'm also concerned. I mean, the things that I'm hearing on the doors right now in pockets of the neighborhoods that I'm knocking are really about Airbnbs, you know, and temporary dwelling units, right? That are really disrupting that housing market for, you know, for time home buyers, right? That those units are not being put back into circulation, so to speak, for young families to purchase and, you know, go to the local public school and to, you know, do all the things. I mean, it's, so I think that there will have to be conversations at some point on how we look at this holistically and, you know, come up with workable solutions that prioritize, you know, communities and families.
I want to say something about that. I used to work disaster recovery, did a lot of hurricane work and all that high-end stuff. So I got some weird emails from time to time. And about 2 years ago, I got an email from an investment group guaranteeing 12% return on investment for senior affordable care. So if I would invest a small amount into senior affordable care centers, then they would guarantee me 12% return on my investment within 5 years. 5 years. Now, that doesn't sound like, and then when I actually look at the numbers of actual housing units that we have all across our state, we actually have a surplus of housing. So when you look at the actual numbers from the census, by county, there's only one county or one city in one county that actually has a deficit of actual housing units versus households. Everyone else had a small surplus. All of that, and I can send you the link to our spreadsheet that pulled it right off of the census. But my question is, isn't there better ways at looking at things than just throwing money out? So when we invested a few years ago in affordable housing, I was living in Oklahoma City Housing Authority, and they threw everybody that worked there, even the maintenance, got to go to a steak and lobster dinner, 8 hours, champagne, open bar, the full nine. Now, the residents were supposed to get new stoves and new refrigerators because they were so old, most of them were broken. But that still hasn't happened because the priorities were, let's get new security, $100,000 security vehicles, let's get party for everybody, you know. And so it seems like politicians always want to throw money out at things. But isn't there other ways that we can look at housing in particular to actually help human beings? Because this is something that, in my opinion, should be a human right. You have to have some sort of shelter, or especially in Oklahoma, you will not survive. We have 2 times a year where you can survive without any sort of shelter, in the fall and spring sometimes. But how can we better address getting the folks who actually need it, the help they need, and also getting at these corporations who are, again, guaranteeing 12% interest, and they're the ones that own all of the housing. And those are not Airbnb houses. These are a whole bunch of different things. So how do we address those things? Because to me, it feels more like a corruption issue than it does, a lot of other things, and greed, as usual.
Yeah, well, and I would love to see that data. I know Senator Kirt and I have both seen the opposite in all the data that's been presented. And I mean, she's really the expert on housing. I really just follow what she does on housing. But I know with like the Realtors Association, and I mean, she's pulled together some really impressive players around this particular issue who don't always play well together to try and get to the heart of what would be some meaningful changes, especially as it relates to eviction. The numbers aren't always clean. Let me just say, I mean, I have had lots of apartment units in my district that I represent who should not be inhabitable. That, they might be a number on the census, but they should be shut down. Absolutely. But the laws that we currently have are majorly in favor or slanted towards the landlord over a tenant. And that is really where I feel like there has to be some give, because I mean, if your plumbing is out and you're trying to withhold your rent so that they'll get the plumbing fixed, well, now you're going to get evicted, right? I mean, like there's just no recourse of action in some of these situations for the actual tenant. And then if the landlord decides to retaliate, that, it's very messy, and it doesn't have to be. And there's some really cool things that are happening in Tulsa with the funding that they're putting into public assistance and public housing. And really, I mean, they're doing a really, really good job. And I'm excited to see that project to completion, so that hopefully Oklahoma City will try and do something similar, because it's going to be a real boost to downtown Tulsa whenever it's.
To switch it up a little bit, I know Michael had a question.
Kind of a hot spot here in Norman right now.
Been waiting for it. Sorry.
I'm not sure if you're aware. Haley, get down. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what's going on at OU, and the implications that I see that Toilet Paper USA, I'm going to call Turning Point USA, let me be professional, is going to have on the future education, like even like just in higher education, where we have the governor that is now stepping in and helping this person lose their job, which didn't even look at the essay. I'm sure he didn't even read it. I grew up in an Oklahoma education system. Even I know that essay was not that great, so it didn't deserve, I think, the ramifications of that. But what do you see moving forward in the future with our education, of Turning Point coming into these schools and having a big say over, like, with legal ramifications on these people and all that?
Well, I mean, what I've always been told as a state legislator is that we don't control higher ed. The regents do. We have an entire board of regents. And so the governor needs to stay in his lane. He's the executive branch. He can have an opinion. That's fine. I mean, we all have opinions. But I mean, when you're thinking about who is the responsible entity that should be intervening in a situation like that, that wasn't even the right person. That wasn't even, and so, I mean, if we're going to move to this very litigious environment, where everything is under fire and under suspicion, and everyone's out to get someone else, then I mean the Board of Regents is the proper place to settle those disputes, not the governor, not even the superintendent of education. not the Secretary of Education. Those are all folks who have a little bit more direct correlation to the situation at hand, but are still, I mean, our public universities are governed by the Board of Regents. And so even as I've tried to write, policies about higher education, I had when I first took office, I was like, I'll never file a bill if I know it's unconstitutional. And then I broke my own promise because, Mary Fallon had banned the box for state employees for prior felony convictions on state employee applications. But it's still a very common practice in higher education. And so this is my frustration, is that you have individuals who are getting an education when they're incarcerated, and maybe they get released before they finish the program, and now they're trying to apply to finish that degree, and they can't even get admitted into the university. So it's like, this is bananas. Like, I could be a student when I was in prison, but now I'm in society and I'm trying to do better for my life, and I can't finish my education. This makes no sense. And obviously, like, with safety concerns, etc. But I filed that bill just to start a conversation, because I was really frustrated at the idea that, okay, yes, it's unconstitutional, but they shouldn't be doing this anyways. So we can't do that as legislators. And we fund it, I mean, or we don't fund it. You guys do, taxpayers do, but I just mean, we make those appropriations decisions. And so that's the very detached politician answer, is that they didn't even go through the proper channels, right? I think it's ridiculous. I am incredibly, and I'm gonna be a little choosy with my words, because what I witnessed at the Capitol is very much a retaliation on any kind of progressive activism. So what was this? Because it seems like conservative activism, right? So I can feel some kind of way about it, because I do feel some kind of way about it. But, who hasn't gotten a grade they disagreed with? That's the other question.
That was I'm glad you kind of touched on that, because I was wanting to know what your thoughts were as a former educator in that sense. But I totally get that, why you have to be a little choosy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm sure she's a lovely human. And I know that those teachers are probably also lovely humans. And I'm sure that there are fundamental misunderstandings at play in this entire situation, with the limited amount of information I have on this entire situation. And it just makes me incredibly sad that this is where we're at, that things that should never be influencing a classroom have become the center focal point for a specific group of right-wing conservatives.
Perfect. Do we have thank you for that. Do we have any lasting questions for Miss Senator Hicks here? How can we support you? How can we get a hold of you? How can all the good stuff?
All the goods. Okay, here we go. I am running for re-election in 2026. It is my final re-election, and it's sad to say that out loud, but also a little, feels kind of good.
What's next?
No, we can't even think about what's next.
Okay.
We got to think about what's right now. But term limits is to blame. That's why I'm saying it is the final. This is the last term I'm eligible to run for state senate. Our term limits are 12 years cumulative. So if you serve 12 years in the Senate, you're done. You can't run for the House. It's over. If you start in the House, you move to the Senate, you can move back and forth within those 12 years, but that's it, 12. So yeah, then we'll have to make decisions after we figure out what's going on for the next 4 years. But I'm, Hicks for OK pretty much on every platform. My TikTok handle is a little bit different because I can't remember the password to my other handle. So maybe at some point I'll be able to get that account back. It's real life. But Carrie Hicks for, I think it's Hicks for Senate on
Is it Hicks 4 or FOR?
the number 4 on all the social media platforms. But I also have a website. It's just my full name, Carrie.Hicks, or I guess it's carrihicks.com. carrihicks.com. If you're interested in volunteering or you're interested in getting involved on, we're doing the deep canvassing, we're registering voters, we're very active in the community in Northwest Oklahoma City. We're always looking for, young people who are interested in government. If you want to come and page for me at the state capitol, I would be honored to have you in that environment for a full week. It's a pretty cool experience. I didn't know about it as a high school student, and so I'm trying to always encourage young people, even if you don't know whether you want to get involved in politics or not. My dad would always say, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And it's true. So come volunteer at the Capitol. I also do shadow opportunities if you just can come for a day and, spend a day going to committee meetings with me or hanging out and I don't even know. Who knows what kind of mischief we can get into. But if you're interested and you're a young person who is either in high school or undergrad, and I had a graduate intern last year, we usually take about 3 to 4 interns in my office. We have an incredible program that gives folks a real up close, hands-on. There's only 8 of us, so we need a lot of support. If you're interested in any of those opportunities, obviously, please don't hesitate to. You can use any of my social media, but you can also reach me at carrie.hicks@oksenate.gov, and we will get back with you. I try to make it 48 hours, but I'm failing right now because it's the holidays. Give me some grace. I got 3 kids.
That's fair. Y'all make sure you're following Senator Carri Hicks. We also have Senator Julia Kirt on here, so make sure y'all are following them as well. Thank you so much for being on here with us. Yes.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I got to end with this. We are constantly looking for people to run for office. I know this is true because I lived it, that women have to be invited to run. So here is your formal invitation. Whether you are female, male, or anything in between, please consider running for office, whether it is school board, whether it is municipal, whether it is state government or federal. We need great people on the ballot. And the thing I hear the most is, it's going to be opening up my family to a lot of, okay, sure. But I think the question for me was, I'm pretty thick-skinned, I can handle some mean things being said about me if I know that it is in the service and the pursuit of good things for our state. So if that is you, if you have thought about it and you just needed somebody to invite you, it's now. The time is now. We are actively recruiting candidates to run in Senate seats, myself and Senator Kirt. And so either one of us would be thrilled to talk to you about that endeavor in particular. Just do it. People are like,
okay, I'll run. I'm just kidding.
You have for
right
about it. I'm like, just do it.
Sign me up.
It's thrilling, and just do it. Just do it.
Perfect way to end that. Yes, thank you. Any other lasting things, Michael, Elizabeth?
No, I think all good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, even messing through the troubleshooting part of that. So thank you again for coming with us tonight, and thank you guys for joining us on our Humpday Exchange every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Always asking the most important questions to the people that are running the state for us. So again, thank you so much.